Okay, welcome to everybody who's joining us. It is 5 o'clock, and in a few moments, Anna is going to start talking about her journey from Lyon down to Milan. But we'll give her another minute or so before we start, just so people can get settled. Now, a few of the formalities, and again, I think most people are probably fully aware of all these already. First thing, please do introduce yourself in the chat box, but make sure if you do that you change the setting to everyone. Otherwise, it just comes to Anna and myself and Laura. So yeah, make sure that you change that to everyone and just say hello. You can see a few people already. Christine, hello, Christine. Stonehenge. Brenda, of course. Okay. That's one thing. Now, I'm sure you'll have lots of questions for Anna. Put your questions in the Q&A. If you put them in the chat, there's a risk that they might get lost. So put them in the Q&A. If I find that a question has been repeated, I'll probably delete it from the Q&A. So don't be offended. I'm not going to not ask your question. It's probably just that somebody else has already asked it. And the other thing is that please remember that Laura and Tim run the Cycle Touring Festival on a not-for-profit basis, but there are costs involved. It is free, but you are encouraged, if you're in a position to do so, to donate. The recommended amount is £5 per talk, although if you have seen quite a few of them, the recommended amount is £20 for the whole week, 10 days of talks. And it's not finished yet. There are more talks this evening, Timmy Mallet tonight, and then a couple tomorrow as well. Right, so I'll put the link for the donation in the chat box in a few moments once Anna's started talking. I can see we've got 78 people. I'm not sure how many Laura was expecting, but I think it's now 3 minutes past. So I'm going to switch my video and my audio off, and I'll be back asking Anna all your questions a bit later. So enjoy the show. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along. It's really great to see everybody, or well, can't see you, of course, but to be involved. Thanks, Laura, for the invitation. Cycle Touring Festival is just a wonderful thing, and it's great to be back and doing things online and looking forward to doing things in real life later this year. So thank you for coming. I'm just going to do my screen share, so bear with me, please. Here we have the slightly cut of doing. So this is my bicycle. I'll leave that picture up in the background while I introduce my talk and kind of give an overview of what I'm going to be covering. So last summer, I cycled from Lyon to Milan. It was part of a longer ride all the way from Glasgow to Athens, run by a group called Thighs of Steel. Thighs is a really cool group. It's a kind of cycle club. The motto is, we ride really far for good reason. And it's full of lovely people who just want to make a difference. So I would recommend looking up Thighs of Steel. Cool name as well, and just, you know, fun. It's a fun club. And every year they do a fundraising ride from the UK to Athens. And there are lots of fundraising rides around, lots of places you can ride your bike to raise money. But the unique thing about this is that the ride ends at the projects that are being supported by the fundraising. So specifically, it's about helping refugees. And every year it's to a project in Athens. The ride is all the way from the UK to Athens to visit the project, which I just think is such a lovely way to do it. You know, you're really seeing how your money that you're raising is helping people, which is just fantastic. So there are a few people on the ride who do the entire length, the entire thing, all the way from the UK all the way down to Greece. but most people will do a week. So you can pick what you want to do. And I chose to go from Lyon to Milan. So that was my week. And the main reason I chose to do that particular week is because I could get there by train and get back by train fairly easily. And I'm going to be talking about that aspect of things for probably about half of my talk. And then the small matter of cycling across the Alps from Lyon to Milan will be the second half of my talk. And just to let you know, Thighs of Steel, as I said, the group that organised this ride. So David, who is one of the organisers, he is going to be doing a talk tomorrow, which is called Refugees Welcome, this time tomorrow, 5 p.m. And that's telling the story of the ride that they did in COVID, because of course couldn't do the proper all the way to Greece. And so they took on a record of GPS drawing by bike, and they some of the UK, which I just think is amazing. So yeah, if you're interested in the organisation and if you're interested in that kind of thing, then please do tune in tomorrow to David's talk as well. He'll be telling you more about the organisation and more about what they do and yeah, the cool projects they get involved with. So that's that. Right, so yeah, as I said, I took the train down to Lyon, and sorry, backpedal a little bit. I should tell you that so I'm the director of a charity called Flight Free UK, and my role is to encourage people to travel without flying. So it's really important to me. I'm very passionate about this, about traveling without flying. And so therefore, combining bicycles and trains, I think, is a really wonderful way to explore. So yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons I'm going to focus so much on that, because I think it makes a lot of sense for us as cyclists. Obviously, the bicycle is a very low carbon way of traveling. It makes sense to combine that with another low carbon way of traveling. And I kind of never really understand the whole get on a plane to ride your bike kind of thing. Like, for me, it makes much more sense to pair it with a train. So it can be easy, it can be hard. So I've got a fair amount of experience now and tips that I can share about how to do it and how to make it run as smoothly as possible, even with the challenges of getting across Europe by train. So yeah, the reason, so to give a bit more of a background as to why I think this is important and why this is my work, why my work is trying to communicate this. So we are facing a climate crisis. One of the things we really need to do, well, the main thing we need to do is reduce our emissions a lot, substantially. And one of the ways to do that is change how we travel. So traveling by air is high carbon, traveling by rail is low carbon. For example, last week I went skiing, just to kind of illustrate the whole climate crisis being on our doorstep now. You will have heard that over this winter season, there was very little snow on the slopes, and that's a result of our warming climate. So to preserve not just the activity of skiing for our holidays, but to preserve nature and our survival here, it is about getting those emissions down really fast. And now the trip that I took to skiing, we went there by train, and our journey generated just 5 kilograms of carbon dioxide each, whereas if we had flown, it would have been 127. So that's a remarkable saving, and something that I think is so important. And to communicate how it's possible to do that, and desirable, because of course it's a wonderful way to travel. I think this is, obviously there's a lot that needs to be done, and a lot of it needs to come from the top, but there is so much that we can do as well. And just making those choices about how we get around is a very powerful thing that we can do, and does make a big impact. So so that's a little bit about why traveling by train makes a lot of sense to me. So my journey there, as you can see now with my bicycle, I've got on the bag there, that's my bicycle bag. So to travel by train across Europe, it's very handy to have one of those. There are certain trains that you can't get on without putting your bike in a bag. So all the rest of my kit, I've got my clothes, I've got my bedding and everything in my panniers, I've got my tent on the back, bike bag, and then my little bag with everything else that I need. So yeah, I think that bag cost me 40 quid or something. So you can get quite cheap ones. There are also expensive ones, but that's an essential piece of kit for traveling by train with your bike. Okay, let's go see what's next. Okay, so so getting there all the way from London, so I live in London, down to Lyon, you can definitely do that in one day. It would require quite an early train from London, and then yeah, sorry, I'll tell you all the changes in a second. I decided though I didn't want to take an early train, especially because it was much more expensive. So in order to save a bit of money, I travelled down the night before to Folkestone, and I stayed with someone from Warm Showers. Now, I don't need to tell all of you about Warm Showers. I'm sure that you are all very aware of it, but it's a network for touring cyclists, reciprocal hospitality. I've had people stay with me on my lovely boat. You probably can tell I live on a boat. And I have stayed many, many times with people on the Warm Showers network, and this was one of them. So it's a great way to save some cash. Of course, you don't pay for your accommodation, but it's also a wonderful way to meet people. And this particular person, she was fantastic. We walked the dog for a couple of hours and we just talked about books. It was brilliant. It really enhanced the holiday, and I hadn't even gone anywhere yet. And as you can see from this picture, Folkestone is amazing, and what a fabulous coastline we have, and these gardens just really took my breath away. So doing things the very slow way, I find, absolutely enhances things and is a wonderful addition to your holiday. So the next morning I cycled across the Dover Road from Folkestone to Dover to catch my ferry. It's a fairly early ferry. The Dover Road is, well, it's a very steep climb up from Folkestone onto the top of the cliff where the old Dover Road goes. And it's a wonderful route. It's part of the National Cycle Network, and it's completely traffic free and has these strange acoustic, I don't even know what they are. Like, I think they're kind of radar. I don't even know, like they're communication things for across the channel. Anyway, yeah, you can look that up. But very, very cool, very interesting. All of this stuff, all of this history on the South Coast, really love it. So yeah, a lovely ride over into Dover. And I had never cycled from Dover, actually. Had never, been on the ferry from Dover with my bike. I've been on driving many times, but I was really, really impressed with the cycle provision. So just showing up at the port straight away, everywhere on the road, there are the cycle signs. So it tells you exactly where you need to go. It's really welcoming, and it couldn't have been easier. So really, really pleased to find all that for traveling by ferry. So just to kind of interject, just to give a little bit of extra here, the reason why I took the ferry was because the alternative is Eurostar, and they are currently not taking bikes unless they're in a box or unless you are taking a Brompton or a folding bike. So I have previously taken my bike on the Eurostar fully assembled. That was back in 2019, but the company who does that isn't currently doing it, even though I've heard that this will come back fairly soon. However, even taking your bike on the Eurostar, I think, is a pain. I'd sort of rather go by ferry. It's much more calm, it's much cheaper. This cost 25 quid for me. So yeah, it's just a bit more relaxed. It's fun. I love a ferry. So yeah, it adds to the adventure. So yeah, there is my bike on the ferry. And here is the ferry departing from Dover and those famous white cliffs. And oh, it's just a wonderful place to be and to kind of really feel like you're going on an adventure. So yeah, massive fan of ferries. Oh, and this is a ride to Calais. Look at that. I mean, come on. Beautiful coastline on both sides of the channel. So here's another advantage of doing travel in this way. I, again, been through Calais many times. Most people go through Calais just to leave again. But so this is the first time I'd actually been into Calais centre. So I think my next picture, oh yes. So here we are, here's the little map of Calais Ile and the canals and everything that's around it, and just exploring the city. I had quite a lot of time before my train that went from Calais Ville, so Calais centre. And I did that because I wasn't sure. I added quite a lot of contingency time into this journey. So you could definitely do it quicker. You could definitely shave 2 or 3 hours off the overall journey if you line things up a little bit more quickly. But I wanted to, first of all, take my time because in case anything was late, but also because that also adds to the enjoyability of it. As you can see, a roasting hot day. Yeah, this was August. So exploring Calais and just being there for a little while was very exciting. And that beach that I'd seen from the ferry, here it is. Oh my God, the beach is amazing. I loved it. I loved it. I sat there, I had my lunch. I was just absolutely having the ball, having the best time. Yes, you see how much I love a beach. So yeah, who knew? Calais beach is amazing. Calais town centre is also wonderful. Fantastic bonus. I feel like I'm on holiday. I haven't barely started. Okay, so into, oh yeah, that's my bike again. Oh, and there's my roll mat. Oh, you see. Right, so into Calais Ville for my first train of the journey. Now, this was a TER. So these are the local slower trains that take you across France, and you don't have to reserve your bicycle on them. I would recommend this as a way to travel across France. It's really easy. You just wheel up and wheel on. I had bought my ticket in advance, so I had a particular ticket for that particular train, but my bicycle, no stress, you just wheel up, it's fine. There's plenty of space on these ones. So yeah, as you can see, there's the bike carriage. On these ones, oh, sorry, you can't really see that. Well, you can see it's hanging. The picture obviously is not quite the right orientation, but yeah, so these are hooks that suspend the bikes from the ceiling. And it's a really, there were 4 other bikes, I think, that came on eventually while I was there. And there's also other space. So it's not the easiest thing to do to hoik your bike up onto these hooks, but there's enough space that if you don't want to do that or can't, or if you've got a tandem or a tricycle or whatever else, there is enough space to put it just by the side. So yeah, really accessible. No one seems to mind you being there with your bike. You know, it's a lot of a nicer journey than you tend to get here in the UK. So yes, if you have the time, I would heartily recommend that as a way to access the whole of France. The TER trains get my thumbs up. Now, okay, so I then got to Lille, and in Lille I transferred onto a TGV. So these are the high-speed intercity trains, and you are not allowed to take a bike on there. They don't have any bike carriages. You can only take your bike if it is in a bag. So that's my bicycle in a bag on the train. Obviously it's a much quicker way to cross France if you are doing it that way. Now, this was the second time that I had taken my bike by TGV. The first time was coming back from Nice a few years ago, and so I'm late for everything. And I knew that this would be the moment where I needed to not be late. I needed to get there super early so I could dismantle my bike, put it in the bag, and get on the train. And even though I thought I had done that, I was still putting the bike in the bag when the train was pulling into the platform, and it was the most massive, awful panic. Because carrying a bike in a bag and also carrying the stuff that your bike usually carries is really hard. So I had learned my lesson, or so I thought. Okay, well, that can't happen again. Right. So that's one of the reasons why I added so much extra time to this journey, because I thought I need to be in Lyon with at least an hour to make my connection so I can dismantle my bike and have everything ready. Unfortunately, though, as I said, it's very difficult to carry a bike in a bag. It's much easier to wheel the bike and then, so my intention had been to wheel it onto the platform and then dismantle it so I was ready to go. Now, they didn't announce the platform for a long time, and I was watching the clock ticking thinking, do I still have time to get the bike in the bag? Okay, yeah, I've still got half an hour. Okay, 25 minutes. Right, 20 minutes. Okay, I've still got time. And that's when they announced the platform. So I wheeled it over, and the guard said I couldn't take my bike any further. He said I wasn't allowed to go onto the platform, even though I explained why I wanted to and that I was going to put it in the bag and everything else. So I ended up upstairs. I had to dismantle it, put it in its bag, again, carry it with all the other stuff that the bike usually carries, and I ended up dragging it the length of the platform so I could get to where my seat was. And I was in tears by this point because it was so stressful. I was so sweaty, so stressed, so annoyed, so frantic. The train was there. I didn't want to miss it. It was just, it was so ridiculous. Luckily, I obviously got on the train. It's fine. My bike's in there. So for storage on the TGV, there's there's luggage space by the doors, but your bike won't fit there. This is halfway down the carriage. So all the TGVs have this. Yeah. So this is a much easier place to put your bike. It slots in there nicely. And I could sit there, so I could keep my eye on it the whole time and make sure no one put anything on top of it or whatever. So yeah, it's good to have that there. But yeah, I was cursing quite a lot because of that. But then, of course, I'm now sitting on the TGV. I've got a couple of hours to chill out, able to go and get a cup of tea or some wine if I need it. So generally, the journey worked out fine. Okay, where are we? Yes. So this is on the other end. Just getting off in Lyon, and then putting my bike back together. Do I have one of it reassembled? Yes, I do. Ta-da! So I would advise getting used to taking your bike apart if you are going to do this, especially a bike like this. So this isn't like bike packing where you don't have anything extra, you don't have any accessories. I've got all the accessories, including mudguards, which actually I didn't need. It was the height of summer. I felt a bit stupid after having taken them off and on again a couple of times, because that was just a waste of time and I should have just left them at home. But anyway, that's my bike. So but yeah, I would definitely recommend practicing. But yeah, it goes in, it's fine. Once it's in, you're fine, you're done. Okay, so then I arrived, sorry, back to that one. So then so that was Lyon, kind of 8 p.m, and I had time to just gently ride over to my youth hostel, and yeah, that was the end of my journey to Lyon. I'm going to come back to the actual bike ride from Lyon to Milan, but I'm going to skip forward now to when I finished the ride and I had got to Milan and I needed to come home. So the next train I took was this one, and I'm currently at Milano Central Station. Now, this was much easier, not completely a lot easier, but much easier than the previous experience, because I could, I was able to get my bike to the train spot before the train arrived, like in good time. Annoyingly, the lifts had broken, but I was able to carry my bike in its bag up the steps with the bags. It was easy enough. It was fine. The easiest one was Zurich. So I then changed. So this is Milan to Zurich. That was the journey. And then Zurich to Paris the following day. And Zurich station was brilliant. So I came in the morning. You've got all the tea and pretzel stands on your right, and then on the left the platforms are all there, and that's the best bit. There's no ticket barriers, you just walk onto the platform. So I was able to do what I had wanted to do all along, which was wheel my bike onto the platform to the exact spot where I would be getting on the train, and then put it in its bag, so when the time came I could just put it on and put everything else on. And if you can do that, it made it so much easier, and it made me think this is absolutely worth it. Like being able to travel fast across a continent or country, and take my own bike to ride it in a different location. This is, it just simply opens things up so well. So yeah, that was a great experience. Okay, where are we? So I've talked about the emissions savings. That's a really important part of this. But one of the joys of traveling by train is the experience that it gives you. So, and some of my favorite parts of this whole trip were the train journey. After having left Milan, the train goes alongside the lakes and the mountains of North Italy and then into Switzerland, and it's just breathtaking. I couldn't stop looking out of the window. Lake Como into Lake Zurich, and yeah, I was thinking this is actually really easy to get to by train, so I will definitely be coming back. Coming into Zurich, this is one of the most memorable parts of the trip. So I had previously called up the campsite. So I'd found a campsite just by myself. I've got my single man tent. I'd found a campsite by the lake, and I had called up the campsite the previous day and said, I'm going to be coming, just checking you got space. And they said, no, we haven't got any space. And I just thought, hang on a minute, that's a bit ridiculous. I'm a single woman on a bicycle with my one-man tent. Come on, they've got to find space for me. So I just went, and I blindly went. Or I intended to. So I pulled into Zurich, got on my bike, and I was thinking, wow, Zurich is vibing. This is a cool city. And as I got closer to the lake, I discovered that I couldn't get close to the lake because it was the annual street party. And this is why there was no space at the campsite, because the whole city was just full of people, like millions of people there. Anyway, regardless, I decided I would give it a go anyway and try and get to the campsite. And I got there, and the guy behind the desk just looked at me and said, lady, if you can find a space, you are welcome to it. So I found a little tiny corner that I wasn't really allowed to be in, next to a bush or under a bush, and I set up my camp there. This is how ridiculous it was. I mean, there were tents absolutely everywhere. When he said there was no space, he was telling the truth. But having just, enough sleep, and then waking up in the morning, I had to get up at 5, I think, because my train was at 6:30, so I wanted to make sure I was in good time. And cycling along the lake with the people who are still raving from the party, watching the sunrise over Lake Zurich, that is an experience I will never forget. It's those moments, those are the ones that really make the stories that we tell. And I think, as I said, it's not just about the emissions, it is about those travel tales. And that's why I try and why I would encourage anybody to take the train rather than fly. Okay, so am I ready to talk about the actual cycling? Yes, I am. Oh, and sorry, this photo again, I hope I don't have too many in this orientation because they don't really show, but yes, so as I said, small matter of cycling between Lyon and Milan across the Alps. This was my first time in the Alps. And historically, I've been a little bit of a flat cyclist. So I really enjoyed Rob's talk last night. Austria is very flat. Really tempted to go there. Wonderful riverside cycling. That's what it's all about. But of course, mountains are awesome too. And so, yeah, getting across the Alps from Lyon to Milan, that was the challenge. And because this is a fundraising ride, so it's got to be hard. Actually, this first day I found it really hard. So every day we rode with a different group of people. There were about 12 of us in total, so there were 3 different smaller groups that we would ride with. 2 groups. 2 groups, and then later on we split into 3 groups. And it was nice to do it that way. I loved that aspect of it, just switching it up with different people, so we got to know everybody, and that was really nice. But anyway, yeah, so this is the group from day 1, and the first 2/3 of the day were on the plains out of Lyon. It was absolutely wonderful, but the first day was definitely the hardest. So this was 150 kilometers, and the last 50 kilometers were over a mountain pass, and I struggled a lot with that. So I can ride 150 kilometers and I can ride mountain passes, but I can't do both. And to be doing that on day 1 and carrying my bag and riding my very heavy bike, I mean, the others all had sensible bikes. Well, not all of them, but yeah, there were quite a few lighter bikes there. I found that very, very difficult. But as I said, that was the nature of it. It was supposed to be a challenge. That doesn't take away from the fact that the route was incredible. So trying to move on to the next picture. Here we go. So wonderful weather. The first section of it, as I said, through the plains and kind of coming out of the city, really wonderful. And then seeing the foothills of the Alps appear in the distance, and then getting there and getting into them. Yeah, highly recommended as a place to ride your bike. Really wonderful. Yeah, we're just getting into it now. So a couple of these long straight flat roads, and then you can see what's going to happen in the distance. And here we are, making our way up into the foothills, and lots of these roads sort of carved onto the edge. Just wonderful. And this was a lovely little village that we found 2/3 of the way in, and this is where we had a nice lunch spot and a refreshing dip in the river. Well, paddle, it's not very deep. And then this was the actual climb in the end, the last 50k. I was trying to make the best of it, but it's funny, isn't it, how your mood affects your memory? Because I remember it being dark. Of course it wasn't dark, it was like this, but yeah, because I was really struggling, I did remember it being dark. Okay, so this is a wonderful aspect of the journey. This was our campsite on day 1. So after we'd struggled up that pass and got through it, obviously you do eventually get there. And we stayed in someone's garden. This is an official network called Welcome to My Garden. So definitely look it up. It's brilliant. And as you can see, he has the couple who live there have a very extensive garden, and we could be there with the support van and all the bikes and all of our tents. And they brought out, we had the chairs with us, so we could have a little meal around, and they let us use the shower, and it was just wonderful. And they loved us being there, and we loved being there, and all that reciprocal hospitality. That's really what it's about, isn't it? It's just wonderful when, if you're on a bike, people want to help you, and we found that so much, and it was very very welcoming. So yeah, recommendation, Welcome to My Garden. That's a good network to find. So day two, waking up kind of already worried about the ride and dreading it. But actually day 2 onwards it was much easier, partly because the distance was lower, so we were only cycling 100k this day, and the main pass came straight away, so we were already kind of quite highly elevated for the welcome to my garden guys, and then we straight away came up and hit the top. So this is the pass on this side, and then it was just wonderful downhills, and then we were along the bottom of the valley for much of the day. And so these are quite famous these are surrounded by quite famous passes. There's the Croix de Fer is around here, if anyone's done that, or obviously it's part of the Tour de France passes, so you might have heard of it as well. Yeah, loads of iron crosses. So Croix de Fer means iron cross, and loads of iron crosses just randomly in the hills here. Just wonderful views and really nice roads. The French know how to use tarmac. And yeah, we came out the other side and crept up into the hills of the valley, and this was our campsite on day 2. So it was an actual campsite this time, but just another wonderful spot to be in. Fantastic views, you know, you can imagine what that's like in the morning as well. Yeah, bike yoga there. Okay. Oh, another picture you can't really see very well. So this is Col de Mont-Cenis, or Cenis, sorry, I don't know how to say that. Yeah, here I am at the top of it. So this was the biggest pass, and this is the one that that's on the road that goes into Italy. So you're crossing from France to Italy, and yeah, it's tough, but it's not too bad. It's a lovely pass, lots of people climbing as well, lots of other cyclists out on that day. There's a cheese shop at the top. It's all very touristy and lovely in a nice way. And then coming, oh my goodness, look at this. So this is the lake at the top. So the summit lasts for ages. That was the summit. And then for the next half an hour, we're still sort of undulating up and down a little bit before the descent starts. And this incredible lake, the kind of one you just cannot take your eyes off. So yeah, very picturesque road, that one. And then coming down the other side, I hate a descent. I'm a terrible descender, but this was wonderful. Just shallow enough to not make you feel like you're losing control, or it's not terrifying. It's just smooth and glorious. And yeah, it's like this all the way up. So you can kind of see at the very top right hand corner of the picture, there's the barriers, and it goes down, and there must be 20 of these. It looks incredible from the other way as well. You can see on the road a couple of my fellow cyclists who got ahead while I was taking the picture. So yeah, really a fantastic pass. Recommend it wholeheartedly. And then shortly after, we crossed into Italy. Nothing really changed. Same roads. But this was our first little Italian village that we went to, and had a nice coffee as soon as we arrived. One of our party is Italian, or has Italian heritage, so he was in his element ordering all of our coffees for us, which was really cool. Okay. Yeah, so one of the challenges on a bike tour, especially in a country that you're not familiar with, is eating enough, knowing where to go, getting there at the right time. Like obviously we need to eat more than what we usually eat if we're on our bikes all day, and I'm vegan, so that adds an extra dimension. So things that we bought were we just use supermarkets, and that seems to be the easiest way. Sometimes like little town square markets, but mostly just supermarkets. There's some anchovies right there. I didn't buy that. I'm not eating that one. But yeah, bread and hummus and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. That's what you can find. You know, it's always the challenge, I think, finding food. But we would cook in the evenings as well, so that was brilliant as well. Okay. a lot of the time we were camping outside of campsites, so rivers like this were where we had our evening shower or evening bath, and that's a fantastic part of it all as well, just really getting close to the natural world. So this is day 4. 5. I didn't actually say how far it was. So we were cycling, so it was 600 kilometers in 5 days. And I think, is this day 3 or day 4? I can't exactly remember. So you can see how hot it is, my God. So this is David on the left. He'll be giving the talk tomorrow, Refugees Welcome. He's got a bugle strapped on his bike, essential cycling kit, and the flag says Sides of Steel. So as I said, we switched teams every day to give a bit of variety and get to know everybody, and this was Bertie and David who I was riding with that day, which I loved. I had a great time with those guys. So yeah, it's really nice to do that. And it's just, I mean, if you let yourself, you would just take pictures all day. It's incredible. The part, right, so after the first day, but the pass was so difficult, I really did settle into it, and the passes were not as challenging as I had feared. They were fine. The Alps are just insanely beautiful. The variety of view is wonderful. It wasn't even too badly hot, even though it was very hot, but we did get enough shade so that it wasn't awful. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful views. Oh, you can just see my head at the bottom there. So this is me swimming in a stream. Now, as I said, we would take a dip if we could, and this was halfway through the day or getting towards the end of the day. This river would actually be, this is a very empty river. I don't know if you can tell, the greenery and the rocks at the top, that would usually be covered in water. So another sign of our changing climate and the drought that we saw last summer. It was very, very noticeable that lots of the riverbeds were dry. So we passed so many rivers we could not swim in. This was one of the very few that we could, and even here it's only the very center that you can actually swim in. The rest is very shallow. So yeah, again, good reason to reduce our emissions. And this was day 4, coming into the North Italian lakes, which were just glorious. My absolute favorite part of the trip. So this was kind of our last big climb, and then we're pretty much heading down for the rest of it. So obviously there are some more ups, but generally the trajectory is down. Yeah, again, you can see the weather, it's just wonderful. But yeah, down into the lake. So this is Lake Maggiore, which it's Italy, and half of it's in Switzerland, just above where we were. So yeah, just coming down those passes, and as I said, I hate descending, but these are great. These descents were really, really good. And yeah, lovely lunch, swimming in the lake, and then final bit. So this is the different lake. This was where by our campsite. So can't remember the name of the lake, but this was our yeah, this was by the end of the day. Okay, and then the final day, all the way along the river valley into Milan. This is lovely Steve. And it was just a really nice way to kind of finish. It started flat, it got very challenging in the middle, and then ended nice and flat again into Milan, the historic city. Oh, that's my Negroni. Very Milanish. And finally, oh no, that's all of us, but you can't see it properly. That's really sad. I'll try and dish out that picture the other way while we're having questions, because I would like to show you the final picture of us arriving in Milan. I'll find that. So yes, I will stop now and ask if anybody wants to ask any questions. Yeah, over to you, Andrew, if you want to host the question section.
Right, okay, that was fascinating, thank you. And I just apologize because I didn't really introduce you at the beginning. I just assumed that everybody would know who you are, because you're quite famous in the cycle touring world. But yeah, you are an author, and you already mentioned your association with Flight Free UK as well. So, so apologies for that. Now, inevitably, there have been quite a few questions and a bit of discussion regarding taking your bike on a train. There always is. Now, first of all, can you just clarify the situation with the bag that you took? The bag that you was it just used for the TGV, or was it used for anything else?
No, so just for the TGV. So the other trains that I took, the one between Calais and Paris, that was the local train, so I could just wheel it on there. But yeah, I only used it on the TGV. But obviously that was in France. If you, oh sorry, because then of course I was in Switzerland as well. I can't remember what the Swiss train was called, but any of the high-speed trains in any country in Europe, so Spain, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, you are it's the same setup. So you would need to bag your bike on those high-speed trains, but any of the regional trains, you're fine.
Yeah, and you know, I've put a link in the chat to the SNCF map, which shows all the train lines in France. You could have got as far as Lyon by taking the TER.
Yes.
You could have just gone from Calais to Lille, from Lille to Dijon, and then Dijon to Lyon. It would have taken you a lot longer. Well, not a lot longer. It would have taken you longer. But hey, you're on a bike, so presumably you're not that bothered by time. So I mean, my personal recommendation would be just simply to take the TER trains all the time, rather than bother with the TGV. But yeah,
exactly. And so there's the final picture of us all arriving in Milan. So there you go. I'll leave that one up while we talk. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. That's a really good point. And it's completely possible and highly recommended to do it that way. For this one, I did appreciate being able to get all the way there in one day. But you know, if it's a different type of trip, then yeah, TER is a great option.
Yeah, and they seem to be replicated in most countries. I've taken regional trains in Germany, in Spain, and they're basically all the same. And because you're only working really with one company in each country, which is very different to here, it's very easy just to download one app, and they're usually available in English. The SNCF app is available in English. You can book your bike on there. It gives you a QR code. You just show your QR code when you get on the bike, go through the gates, and it really is hassle-free. Very, very easy to do. So yeah. Oh, we've got a whole rush of questions. Better get through these now. Right. Graham asks, is there a size limit with the bike on the TGV?
Yes.
He says he took a folding bike on the TGV. He was fine with that, but your bike was okay, yeah?
Yeah. So there is a size limit. I can't off the top of my head remember exactly what it is, but a standard bike bag would be right. So like taking your, so I took both wheels off, the mud guards. The reason I took the mud guards and the rack off was because it needed, otherwise it would have been too wide, and it wouldn't really have fit in the bag properly. So yeah, as long as it can fit in the bag, you're going to be fine.
Okay, so that answers the questions regarding dismantling the bike. Where did the bike bag actually come from? Where did you buy it from?
I think I bought it from Evans Cycles. I think the brand is Tifosi, which is TFOSI, although I don't know if they still do that version. But yeah, as I said, it's a fairly bottom end bag, cost 45 quid or something. And yeah, it was, I haven't looked recently online, but I'm sure there are similar products now.
Do you remember how much you paid for the train?
Oh yes, and actually this was something I was going to mention. So one of the things, one of the reasons why people say, oh, they would rather fly, for example, is because it's cheaper. And that actually happened with one of the guys on the trip. So we arrived in Lyon. We were having our getting to know you meal, and he said he'd arrived by air because it was cheaper. And so I said, how much did you pay? And he said, oh, 35 quid or whatever it was. And I said, yeah, but how much was the actual journey? And we worked out that including the transfers, getting to the airport, getting back, on the other end, all the extras that they charge you, we worked out it cost him over £100. And my journey cost me £85. And I just thought, we don't look beyond the headline price of the flight often, but actually it's not cheaper to fly. 85 quid to get all the way to Lyon, brilliant. And that included the train from London to Folkestone. It included the ferry, the train from Calais to Paris, and then the Paris to Lyon TGV.
Yeah, there's a lot of train love on the chat room here. Somebody's mentioned the bike bus, the bike bus express. It goes
yes.
from, I think it goes from, it starts in Yorkshire somewhere, and it goes all the way to Nice, I think. So that's also an option. You probably know more about that than me.
I've not taken it myself, but yes, I have heard of it, and I recommended it to others in the past because it's a great option. So yeah, Bike Bus Express. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also Flixbus, which when I was thinking of going to Sweden last year, I remember that cropping up in my research. And again, those are buses where you can actually put bikes on the back of the bus, I think.
Yeah, you can, and you can't do that on everyone, because I actually looked into Flixbus for this trip, but it so happened that the times I wanted to go, they didn't have those coaches which had the bike racks on, but they do have them. They're brilliant. They're like the hook-on ones that you get in the train, but they're just on the back of the coach. So yeah, works really, really well.
Yeah, just hope it's not a bumpy road. A foldable bike, somebody's mentioned, would be an option, but obviously if you're doing the journey that you did, perhaps not an option. And then right, how was cycling in Italy? The last bit towards Milan, especially traffic wise?
Yeah, well, the last day was practically traffic free, because we took the cycle route along the river, and then we were following the canal, so we didn't hit traffic until we got very near to Milan. So that was wonderful. Before that, just after we crossed the border, the roads themselves are really good. So I think France has a good reputation for good tarmac, and Italy now joins it in my estimation. So really good roads, nice and smooth. Traffic wise, it was a bit busy. I mean, we picked the nice quiet roads because that's what we were after. I did feel like the drivers were a bit more impatient than they might have been, and you're used to getting a bit of cycle hatred in the UK, and I wasn't expecting it quite so much over there, but there was a bit.
Somebody did mention earlier, I think it might have been in the chat, perhaps they might have picked up on one of the pictures where perhaps you didn't look as though you were carrying that much luggage. Were you all carrying your own luggage?
Yes. So no, we had the support van. So that was one of the, I mean, that's all part of it. You know, if you're going to cycle 150 kilometers over a mountain, you need a support van. If I were to do this by myself as a solo tour, then I could absolutely carry all my luggage over the passes, but I just wouldn't go as far each day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you could see from, I don't know if this is going to wind it round to the first picture again. No, it's not. So yeah, for my luggage, I had 2 full panniers. I had my roll mat, my sleeping bag, and my bike bag strapped onto the back of the bike, and then I had my backpack. So I can carry all that, and I have done on past tours, but it was quite nice actually to just sling it all in the van.
And the
group bag with you.
The group that you're with, is that a commercial operation or is it a not-for-profit operation?
No, so it's a charity. Thighs of Steel, they're a charity, and it's just two or three really wonderful, well-meaning people just doing it because it's a really good thing to do. So it's not a commercial enterprise, it's not for profit, it's one of those lovely small scale really good things.
Right, Another question. What was it like riding with a large group, particularly in the mountains? Were people fine with different paces?
Yeah, so we overall we kept pace with each other really nicely, actually. Naturally, you will have a couple of people who will be able to go a bit faster, some who are a bit slower. But overall, we stayed together nicely. As I mentioned at the beginning, we took it in turns to ride in smaller groups. So to start with, we were divided into 2 groups, and then for the middle days, we were divided into smaller groups even then. So we were 3 groups, which actually made it much easier to ride, especially in the mountains, because, you know, it's nicer and smoother to keep together if there's only 3 of you, and you don't have to keep together anyway. You just sort of wait for each other every so often. So yeah, the dynamics worked really well.
And did you know all these people before you set off, or did you
No.
meet them there?
Yeah, so it's only David who's going to do your talk tomorrow. I know him, but I didn't know anybody else, so that was nice. It's
and they started in the UK and finished in Athens, you said?
Well, no, so all of the people in this picture were just the Lyon to Milan leg.
Okay.
4 of them here are part of 5, sorry, are part of the core team. So they were doing the whole thing, but they would take it in turns to drive the van and then to ride. So 5 of these people did the whole journey overall. The rest of us, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, were just on it for the week.
Kathy's asked, she says she loves Thighs of Steel. Are they fundraising for Cora, Khora, in Athens?
That's correct. Yeah, Cora, they fundraise for. Yeah.
What is Cora?
It's a refugee charity.
Ooh, you've just frozen.
Oh, hello.
Hello, are you there?
Hi. Yes,
Yeah.
I am here.
Yeah.
Hi, hello.
What is Cora?
It's a refugee charity.
Right. Okay. And is that what David is going to be talking about tomorrow?
I'm sure he'll mention it. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Right. Okay. Have you got a book in development?
Not about this specifically, but I am writing another book. Thanks for asking, Andrew. Just a moment to mention my other ones as well. Handily on my bookshelf right behind. So this is my first book, Eat, Sleep, Cycle, about the coast of Britain. This is my second book, which is a selection of cycling stories, inspirational cycling stories, I hope. And I'm currently writing one about my what I did last year, which was called 52 Bike Rides. In fact, I talked about that at last year's cycle touring festival, where I didn't even do it last year. God, what year are we in? It was in 2021, and I went for a different bike ride every weekend or every week, to try and kind of shoehorn adventure into what turned out to be an awful year, or what was a continuation of the COVID years. So that book is in development. Watch this space. Thank you.
Now, I looked at your at Flight Free UK earlier. In fact, no, I got an email which you'd sent from Flight Free UK, and I did pick up on one thing, because you're going to hate me for this. I haven't flown since 2016, but I'm going to go to Tenerife a week on Monday. But I thought, oh, that means I can't sign up to Flight Free UK. But there's something now that you've started where perhaps I could sign up to Flight Free UK on my own terms. Is that right?
Yes and no. We do have, so to explain to everybody, we're a behavior change campaign, and the idea is to pledge to be flight free for a year, and that's the method of behavior change. So if you give something a try for a certain amount of time, then hopefully some of the things that you pick up during that year is about breaking a habit or trying the alternatives. So that's our main method of behavior change. That's what we ask people to do. Could you take a flight for a year? We also have the option, though, because for some people that's not completely possible, we have the option to make your own custom pledge that suits your personal circumstances. So, for example, if you have family in, I don't know, Canada, it's very difficult to go there without flying. And it might be that there's something big coming up, or there are things that we're aware of the reality of life, although holiday flights aren't allowed. So yeah, if you are just going to Tenerife to ride your bike, other locations are available, Andrew.
Yeah, I know,
that are much easier to reach.
And I'm not looking forward to the flying. I'm not a great flyer, but I'd stick me on a train any day. I much prefer to be on a train for 10 hours than a plane for even half an hour or an hour.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. Well, I think we've answered most of the questions.
Yeah, I mean, you can get.
How do you get to, well, yeah, I suppose there's a ferry, isn't there, from the south of Spain?
Correct.
Yeah. Problem is, yeah. Okay. I wish I never mentioned that. Right. Okay. Well, thank you to everybody who has asked any questions. Thank you to Anna. Do you just want to remind people perhaps of the links where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. So my website is annacycles.co.uk. I should probably put that in the chat, shouldn't I? And then if you want to find out more, hang on. Right, let me do this, everyone. So annacycles.co.uk. And then if you want to find out more about the charity Flight Free UK, you can do so at that website, flightfree.co.uk.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you. There's only 3 talks left. The man himself, Timmy Mallet, is on tonight at 8 o'clock. So come back for that. And then tomorrow, Anna's friend David is talking at 5 p.m. And then finally tomorrow evening, Candy Whitcomb, and she's talking about her cycling adventures northeast, south, and west. So that is it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Anna on her boat, and your connection just about held up.
Just about.
Yeah. Thank you for attending this webinar, and go off and have an enjoyable weekend, hopefully on your bike and with the remainder of the talks. Thank you. Bye.